Okay. This video is nothing too quirky. I just had something that I kind of just want to talk about and yeah, just share with people. And it's in the middle of the night. It's 12 a.m. and I have no one to talk to this about. And honestly, when I say that, it's not that I have no one to talk to it about. It's more so that there's no one that shares the same passion with me in my life or shares the same kind of, I don't know, it just feels like energy. So I rather talk here. I think that you can do whatever you want in life. Now, let me expand upon that, okay? Because it does sound really I don't know, optimistic. Doesn't sound like a realistic thing. It sounds more idealistic than realistic, even. And I was watching this YouTube video from Chubby Amy. He's been quite a favorite of mine to watch nowadays. And he had a video called "You Can't Be Everything or Whatever You Want to Be." And in that video, he basically kind of talks about how you have some strengths and you have some weaknesses, and if you're naturally just good at certain things and you're not good at other things. And when you spend so much time focusing on your weaknesses and trying to improve your weaknesses, and that's how the culture of our society kind of is at the moment. That's what he said at the time. I think that video was made years ago, but he was saying that just focusing on that weaknesses and trying to improve our weaknesses does actual more harm than good sometimes. And he was giving himself as an example where when he realized that he was more so good at science and maths and not really that good at English, he put all of his points, I guess, you know, to science and maths. And that's how he kind of built his career around and around his life and made sure to build things that is meaningful to him. And that sentiment is great, I think. I definitely agree with that sentiment, and it's a good sentiment to have when you have these weaknesses that you are obsessed with, I guess, and you kind of feel like you gotta improve them, and that makes you a better person because you need to be a more well-rounded, all all around, well-rounded person. That kind of idea in your head is what drives, I feel like this, well, at least for me, it drives those kind of behaviors where I focus on my weaknesses. And yeah, that is true. That those things might not help sometimes. But I think also at the same time, the opposite is also true, where you can improve those weaknesses and definitely become a more well rounded person. I wouldn't say like to the extent of like trying to fully convert a weakness to a strength, but just looking at the weakness by itself and just trying to improve upon it, one step at a time. I think it's beneficial. It's not there's nothing bad about that. If you're bad at English and you feel like, you know, I have trouble with certain kind of skills like writing essays or just like writing in general, formulating ideas, kind of simplifying and just like saying things out loud that makes it simple for other people to understand. It might help for you to focus on trying to improve your writing and trying to improve that. It isn't necessarily a bad thing. You just got to try to find a way, even though it's very hard at the start. And now, we get to a point where we start comparing ourselves to other people who might have our weaknesses that we have, and they might have those same kind of traits or those same type of skills as a strength. And we might compare ourselves and be like, man, they didn't need to work for any of that, and why do I have to work a lot for it? It's not fair, and like I don't, I feel demotivated to work on these weaknesses, and I'd rather just work on, my strengths and just bulldoze through my life with strength. I don't know. Yeah, but even speaking about these, quote unquote strengths, quote unquote weaknesses that we have to certain skills and whatnot, I sometimes question, what do those labels even mean? Like, what exactly is a strength and what exactly is a weakness? And are they like just cognitive biases that we might have of our own skills? I feel like the skills that we have, or just, generally, they're just skills. They're not necessarily one or the other, whether that's a strength or a weakness. And we assign these labels onto them that makes them into a strength or a weakness to us, if that makes sense. I think that was a little confusing, so I'm just going to give you an example here. Yeah. Writing essays. A student might see writing essays and they might say, oh, yeah, I'm really bad at writing essays and that's my weakness. But are they really? Or is that their mind just going that they're bad at writing essays and they shouldn't work on it, or they should have they have some negative emotions behind that? Like, is it really true, or is it just one's own biases and perception of that skill that makes them kind of label that skill as one or the other? The strengths and weakness, I don't know, is there a measurement? Can we measure it? Can we quantify it? Can we objectively say how good we are in certain things and not good we are in certain things? Yeah, and you might say, yeah, like for English and maths, like I'm good at maths and I'm not good at English because I get better grades in maths and I don't get better grades on English. But grades aren't, would you say someone like who's amazing at English subjects and they get, very high scores, are they necessarily, person who is very good and very studious and knowledgeable in the English language and the literature and all those things? Is it possible that you can be good at literature and good at English and writing without getting the most great grades? That's also possible, that people might be good at those things, but they might not get good grades because one reason could be that they're not interested in studying for the test, um, despite being good at stuff. Another thing is that they might have circumstances that impact them that might get them to get bad grades. It could be the specific assignment and the assessment task that they didn't understand or they had trouble with. It could be the school system. It could, also be some of the greatest writers, or I guess some of the greatest thinkers in terms of literature. How have they always performed greatly in grades in school? Maybe not. I can say that grades might not determine how good someone is at a particular skill or a subject or something. They might find it hard and difficult to score well in that specific one assignment, but they might be, later down the track, they might be great at it. They might be great at it already, but they just score low. I know some people who are very intelligent. I know that they are great thinkers. I've met greatest, thinkers, and sometimes they just don't score well. And it might also have to do with the fact that they might have a great skill, but they're not necessarily goal orientated into getting the best grades. And I know the other way around, where people who are not necessarily the best at something is very goal orientated and really work hard, work their ass off, and then get good grades, even if they originally wasn't really good at writing or anything like that. So there's so many nuances to this that you kind of question what exactly is a strength and weakness? How do we quantify it? How do we measure it? And what are these labels that we assign to our skills and stuff? How do we exactly know what are one thing that we can do is a skill and one thing we can't do is a weakness? I believe that they're just labels and they're distractions to just what actually is. Maybe we are neither good at maths or bad at maths. Maybe we're just doing maths. Because we get grade school in one maths test doesn't mean we're amazing at maths. We're still learning. We don't have the understanding of everything that maths has to offer or English has to offer. And I think when we put labels onto our skills like this, our strengths, our weaknesses are blah blah blah, like these skills, we distract ourselves from maybe focusing on how to kind of just improve either of just the skills by themselves. Not our strengths or weaknesses that we're improving, but just like the skills by themselves. I don't know if that makes sense. Like not strengths, not like a good skill or a bad skill or a weak skill or a strong skill, but just as skills themselves. Neither bad or good, just as it is. I believe that we can do anything we want because we can always look at ourselves at the present moment and take one step at a time and try to improve whatever we have to kind of have on our table, right? And these things on our table might not necessarily be the things that we put labels on in our heads. It might not be what how we perceive it to be. It might be completely different and it might not be anything at all. It might just be it. I'm sorry, yeah, I don't know if I've like made sense throughout this video or at all, but I've just like recorded this in like at nighttime because I'm just like rambling. But yeah. Anyway, I hope that you have a good night, well, or a good day, but depending on what time you see this, then yeah, take care.